and community members in Berkeley County are concerned about a potential merger between St. Stephen Elementary and J.K. Gourdine. Today, I talk one-on-one with Berkeley County School Board member David Barrow about the latest on this for this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel and like Quintin's Close-Ups on Facebook. David Barrow, welcome back to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Thank you, Quintin. It's a pleasure for our return visit. Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you for your service to the community, and thank you for your time as well. Needless to say, you are a Berkeley County School District Board at-large member, and I obviously there's a lot of frustration and unanswered questions right now in the community about the merging of two popular schools in Berkeley County. And I want to take it back to last week Tuesday, and this is coming from WCSC TV. Tuesday's night-in event was the first time the district and the community had an official conversation since the board's vote to merge J.K. Gourdine Elementary and St. Stephen Elementary. Berkeley County School District officials say student transfers will happen automatically in Power School. J.K. Gourdine's staff and administration have been in and will be in contact about opportunities to transfer within the district. Bus transportation will not be impacted, and students will actually have an opportunity to expand after-school opportunities at the new school. No decision has been made on what will happen with the JKE building itself, but with it still being owned by the district, their officials say they're still gathering feedback on what to do next. All three board members who voted against the merger, Yvonne Bradley, Dr. Crystal Wigfall, and of course yourself, attended the actual meeting on last week Tuesday. None of those voting for the merge, Sally Wolford, Kathy Littleton, Joe Baker, and Michael Ramsey, were present. The next school board meeting will be coming up soon on July 15th. Tuesday's meeting followed the amendment made to the final budget vote the Berkeley County School Board approved for the merging of J.K. Gourdine and St. Stephen Elementary schools and redistribute the funds to the rural schools. The idea of the two schools merging was brought up as consideration at the June 17th General Fund Budget first reading presentation. So let me ask you this, Mr. David, why this? Why now?
Well, Quintin, that's a good question. I have some pretty serious concerns about the way it was done. When the board voted to close J.K. Gourdine and merge with St. Stephen, I think it was wrong on several points. Number one, this was done and the community was not involved before this decision, before this board vote. This is directly in opposition to what the board espouses to be transparent and inclusive. You would have thought that this particular board, the members who voted for the merger, would have at least reached out to the community members and to the parents and to the faculty and staff of J.K. Gourdine as well as St. Stephen. That did not happen. This was a clandestine situation that's not unlike something that happened a couple of years ago when Deion Jackson was terminated without some board members being made aware of what was happening. That's another reason why I feel like this was done wrong. Several board members were excluded from knowing about this before it happened. In fact, the lady who made the motion, the amendment to the budget, the approval of the budget, said that she had spoken with other board members and excluded myself and Dr. Wigfall and Ms. Bradley. This was improper. I feel like this should have been discussed with the entire board in executive session to determine what conversation would have been possible for the merger. I'm not saying I would have voted against it. I'm saying I was on the fence. I was not in any particular place on this. I'm aware that there's possibilities and there's positives on both sides of the merger, but I had not made my mind up about this. And the reason I have some other concerns is that this particular amendment should have been made by itself. It should not have been an amendment to the general budget approval. This was a second and final reading of a general budget, which I supported. I supported and would have voted for a general budget for the 24-25 school year. I voted against this because I feel like this amendment was improper. I feel like it should have been done as a separate item with the community members having some input. The fact that it was tied to the general budget I think it was totally wrong because it should have been done separately. Um, the merger of St. Stephen and J. Gordine should have been a separate item. Another reason why I voted against it and why there's some concerns about this is the timing. Not just the timing of the vote and the improper way, in my opinion, that it was handled, but the amendment by Ms. Littleton to merge it did not say when it was going to occur. So I spoke up and asked, if you make an amendment to close the school and to merge it with another one, when is this going to occur? It was not in the amendment. And then her response was, it will happen immediately, which took everybody aback. And then that's when acting board chair Wofford made a friendly amendment and basically said it would happen in the 24-25 school year. I took exception to that because I don't think there's going to be a proper time period for a transition from students going from one school and closing a school and going to another school. And I made that point very clear that I felt like this should have been postponed until next year. Now, at that meeting of the community that you referred to, that meeting was called by the superintendent and the administration. This meeting should have been before the vote ever occurred for discussion and for input, but that did not happen. It was basically to close ranks and to pacify the community and to tell them that everything was going to be fine. At that meeting, instead of having an open discussion and dialogue and information to there were a lot of people there. This should have been discussed in an open session where everybody could hear what was going on and have a Q&A. But that didn't happen. They had breakout sessions, and there were different things discussed at the breakout sessions which should have been included in the entire meeting. So this was the merger itself is not necessarily a bad thing, but the timing and the fact that this was done, in my opinion, clandestinely, when several board members were excluded from the fact that this was going to come as an action item. It wasn't an action item because it wasn't on the agenda. It was attached to the final reading of the general budget. Nobody knew, if they looked at the agenda, that this was going to occur.
Oh, and incidentally, I've tried to set up plenty of interview opportunities with the current superintendent. And every time I sit down with Mr. Barrow to do an interview, they tell me he's not available or he has to do something else. And this is like 3 or 4 times now. So I hope to get him on Quintin's close up soon.
With referencing the superintendent, superintendent at the meeting barely spoke. I think he spoke at the last of the meeting to close the meeting out. And the fact is, the superintendent, and I know this to be true, was aware that this was going to happen. But when several community members asked him at the meeting, and also a board member asked him at the meeting if he had prior knowledge of this, he said he did not, and that this was a board decision. And it is a board decision, but let me just say this, Quintin. This issue of the possible merger of JK, closing JK and putting the students in St. Stephen has been an ongoing issue for 40 years. Every superintendent has had this issue come up and has chosen not to do this. And I made that statement at a board meeting, and I basically said that I don't think this superintendent is going to do it either. And in fact, he did not. He left it up to a board action, and the fact that Ms. Littleton spoke with 5 other board members about would even call me and ask me my opinion on it, as well as Dr. Wigfall and Ms. Bradley, shows that this was in secret and they wanted to get away with something without clarity and without uniformity of information being distributed prior to the community and to those 3 board members. That's why I voted against it. I was for the general fund budget, but I had to vote against it because of the improper way this was done.
And God willing, I hope to get most of those board members who voted for the merge on Quintin school subs, including the superintendent, to get their side of the story. But and I want to ask you some more questions about what you just told me. But where in America, Mr. Barrow, can a public school be completely eliminated in a budget meeting as if it was actually a project?
Well, these board members who voted to close this as an amendment basically are saying that it was tied to the general fund budget because 2 meetings prior to this meeting in which it was closed, there was a question by Ms. Littleton and asked the chief financial officer how much it took to run J.K. Gourdine. And when that information came back, that basically started the wheels in motion because evidently the CFO said that if there's a merger, they would save the district approximately $1.5 million. And then, of course, the superintendent said that this $1.5 million would be used to fund rural schools. Well, that $1.5 million was for JK. Why not put that $1.5 million into St. Stephen for the merger between the 2 schools? Because there are several rural schools in Berkeley County. There's Cross Elementary, Cross High. There's Timberland High School. There's Kane Hoy. There's Macedonia. There's H.E. Bonner. All of these. So they're going to split the money up between. I don't think that's fair, and I'm not sure. I don't think they even know what they're going to do with the money, to be honest with you.
You talk about the CFO. From my understanding, from my sources, he's leaving to go to Dorchester County, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the interim chief academic officer. Please correct me if I'm mistaken. Will that particular person take over his job?
Well, the CFO is not the COO. There's a chief operations officer. That's the gentleman who resigned and will be going to Dorchester County. That's not related to the CFO. The CFO is Chief Financial Officer, and that's Miss Marcy Abramson.
Yes.
She's a first-year CFO. But you're right. We got an email a couple of days, or maybe yesterday, that Mr. Adams is going to be leaving Berkeley County and going to the Dorchester County government for whatever reason. But there have been multiple people that have left the school district over the last couple of years since the termination of Deion Jackson as superintendent and the termination of Dr. Tiffany Richardson as our in-house general counsel. So there's been maybe not an exodus, but there's been quite a few high-level administrators and other teachers and administrators throughout the district that are not happy with the way the school district is being operated at the time.
You mentioned earlier, Mr. Barrow, about obviously Timberland and Cross. Do you believe those particular popular schools that have been around in the Low Country for decades, do you believe those 2 schools will be next on the list for mergers?
certainly hope not. I don't think that's going to be the case. I know it won't be for Timberland. I was principal of Timberland. We had about 900 students when I came in. And it's dropped down possibly to 600 or 700 students at Timberland now. At least that's my guess. But Cross Elementary and Cross High School, they're sustainable. Cross Elementary is K6, and then Cross High is 712. Both of those schools have, I think Cross High School has about 400 to 450 students. That's 712.
Right.
And I'm not sure about Cross Elementary. But I will say if that ever came up for consideration, there would be a fight on their hands because there's not enough room in Berkeley High School for the Cross students to be added, and there's nothing they could do with the Cross Elementary except put them maybe in St. Stephen or Berkeley Elementary. I just don't think that's feasible. It's not on the radar, my radar, and hopefully it's not on those other 6 board members' radar to do that type of thing.
You talked earlier, Mr. Barrow, about the general counsel. Did the general counsel know about this potential merger? And if they did they bring it to the full board?
Quintin, we don't have a general. We have a council that is the general counsel, but
Okay.
is not an in-house counsel.
Okay.
We have basically done away, we being this board when they came into office 2 years ago, fired Dr. Tiffany Richardson, who was in-house. She was an employee of the district. What they have done is give the legal duties and operational things as far as legal issues to another outside source, who then outsources it and then bills the county on an hourly basis of about $300 an hour. So I don't know, but I would suspect that we're paying a lot more now in legal fees than we did when we had a general counsel in-house.
Do you believe the Berkeley County School District will be sued because of this potential merger?
I have no idea, Quintin. I don't. I think it was done wrong. I don't know if it was illegal. I do not think it was illegal because the school board does have that autonomy, unless there was some sort of a procedural glitch, such as not informing the board members and not informing the public, and so not following a normal protocol. But in terms of Robert's rules,
Right.
there was nothing improper about it, except for the fact that, in my opinion, it should have never been attached. The amendment should have been a standalone motion. Instead, it was attached to the general fund budget, which I think is totally improper.
And I want to
But
get
I
back
don't know if it's illegal. I don't think it's illegal.
Okay.
I don't think it's illegal by any stretch.
And I want to get back to that in just a second. But was the attendance number low at JK Gordine because the district actually approved children in the JK zone to attend St. Stephen's Elementary, which was the ultimate goal to, in some people's opinion, to ultimately weaken JK Gordine?
Well, you say weaken JK Gordine?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Well, what the board members are saying and what the administration is saying is that the students at JK are going to receive more services and opportunities for a better education in terms of an expanded curriculum and opportunities at St. Stephen than they were at JK. I don't know what they're anticipating, what they're actually referring to, but I will say that JK has functioned for 99 years as a standalone school, and one more year would have made 100 years. And the community members are very upset over this, and I think rightfully so. So let me just say one of the things that happened at the community meeting the other night
Yes, sir.
was that people were upset about the way it happened, and some people want to actually have the board rescind this decision. I don't think that's going to happen. But they also said if that's not the case, they feel like, and I do too, that this was done too soon, and it should have been plenty of time for discussion. But after the vote, I think it should have been considered to take effect next year, the 2025-2026 school year, instead of 6 weeks. It was 6 weeks from the time the board passed this until the opening of school. And that's a transition of students, that's a transition of employees, that's bus routes, that's all sorts of issues that I think is much too soon for them to, and to that reasoning, there will be, because there's a board policy BA, which allows 3 members of the school board ask in written request to the board chair to add something to the agenda for the next regularly scheduled board meeting. And we have done that. Ms. Bradley, myself, and Dr. Wigfall have requested an item be added to the agenda to discuss the postponement of the merger of JK and St. Stephen. And to that end, there will be an action item or there will be a vote determining on the outcome of that particular agenda item.
Now,
so it will be on the agenda
yes,
because
sir.
3 board members have requested it.
So,
Because the community itself.
yes, sir. Oh, yeah.
Go ahead.
So, yeah. Oh, no worries. So, in what way, Mr. Barrow, by merging these particular schools, will ultimately result in larger classes and potentially a different style of teaching?
Well, JK had a very small class size because they had 106 students in the entire school. So they had basically, I believe it was either 1 or 2 classes in every grade level, and they probably didn't have more than 15 students in a particular class. For that reason, it was an expensive proposition. But what will happen invariably, either they will expand the allocation of teachers at St. Stephen to accommodate smaller classes, or if that's not the case, the JK students will have to be merged into the St. Stephen with possibly a higher student teacher ratio.
So, what was the teacher ratio at JK and St. Stephen's before this merger?
Well, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but smaller schools require more staff and more teachers because it's hard. Because, like you said, if you've only got 15 or 20 kids in a particular grade level, you got to allocate a teacher for that. So it was probably 15 to 18 to 1 at JK. And I used to be a secondary supervisor, and I had to allocate Cross and other rural schools. And the allocation was better class size at the smaller schools. But St. Stephen is still a small school, so I would imagine that the class size at St. Stephen would probably be 20 to 22, 24. That's just a guess.
Yes, sir. Has the district, I just thought about this on my way over here, Mr. Barrow, but has the district actually figured out how early these young children will be on the bus with the middle school students?
That was an issue that was brought up at the meeting the other night, and unless they can do something very unique with transportation. And let me just say this: we have a wonderful transportation supervisor. She does a fantastic job. I'm sure her resources are limited in terms of numbers of drivers and the number of school buses that we have. So it would not surprise me that you would have kindergarten through grade 6 on the same bus, and that's problematic. But I don't know that. I'm just suspecting,
Yes,
and like
yes,
you said, that
yes, sir.
it's an item that came up with the community, and the community is waiting to see exactly what the administration is going to do, because they were superintendent and the members of the cabinet the other night. Well, not superintendent because he didn't speak. They basically were saying that they are working on this diligently, and they don't see any problem with the transition starting this year. And I'm sure they're saying that because the board authorized it or required it. But I don't think it's the right thing to do at this time.
The JK teachers, for instance, will actually look for a new job because of this merger.
Say again?
Yeah, how many teachers do you believe from JK may go and look for another new job because of this potential merger?
Well, the school district has basically pointed out to the board that the employees at JK either have been talked to or will be discussed whether they can transition directly to St. Stephen. I don't think that's probably going to happen. I think that some of the staff and faculty may be asked, not asked, but may be assigned to other schools. And that seems to be, I don't have the numbers,
Sure.
but that's what normally happens when you close one and you just don't have room for all of the employees to go to the other school. It's just almost impossible.
And this might be a off the beaten path question, Mr. Barrow, but because of this potential merger, do you know how many students will actually transfer to just other schools to just not even deal with the merger altogether?
I don't foresee that happening, Quintin.
Okay.
The reason is the Pineville community and the JK community are very close to St. Stephen. I don't know where else they would go except across Elementary, and they would have to petition the board or the superintendent for uh, administrative attendance appeals because they will be rightfully transitioned into St. Stephen. So there would have to be uh, either an appeal by the parent to have the child be able to go to another school, or the district administration could actually approve that and let them go other places. But I don't see that happening. I think the community is very close knit, and those 106 students, I'm sure, would like to stay together.
Eh, Oh, speaking of St. Stephen's, Mr. Barrow, what exactly is the physical condition of that particular school and its building?
Well, I haven't been to St. Stephen Elementary in a good while, but I will say the principal is outstanding. She does a great job. The school itself will house and has the capacity for that number of students and more. I think that the capacity for St. Stephen is around 700. I think they have around 300 now. So with 100 extra students, they would have the capacity. Now, with relation to J.K. Gourdine, J.K. was renovated when probably on the last bond referendum or maybe the one before. And I'm not sure how much, but I'm sure it was a substantial amount of money to renovate JK at the time. So what happens to JK Elementary is anyone's guess. They're talking about having some community involvement there, as well as the Berkeley County government establishing some sort of a presence with the school property. I don't know if the school district is planning on selling JK or just including the county government, as well as maybe some senior activities or some social services, things like that in the building, which would certainly be welcomed by the community, but not at the expense of losing those children.
And I want to ask you this too. What exactly is the building inspection when it comes to St. Stephen's Elementary? Because I read in my recent research, Mr. Barrow, the last inspection was actually done back in 2013. Is that correct?
I don't know. I don't know. I will say that we do have a good maintenance crew, maintenance department. I don't know if it needs to be updated, but I know that the technology is more than sufficient. The faculty and staff are very good. The building itself, I can't speak to
Okay.
because, as I said, I haven't been there in a few years into the building proper. But I will say that I don't think that there's any conditions of the building that would exclude any other students from coming in. I just because the board and the administration make certain that students are safe in the building and also the surrounding areas and with proper resources in terms of law enforcement when necessary. So I don't think it's an issue in terms of student safety or in terms of the building being inadequate. I don't think it's inadequate. I think it's in good shape, but I'm not sure of that.
Yes, sir. And this conversation will continue, obviously. But for now, Berkeley County School Board member David Barrow, thank you so much for your time. And again, welcome back to Quintin's Close-Ups.
It was my pleasure, Quintin. God bless you, and God bless our country.
Likewise.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.